Hello, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Move Standard. Now, I have a man sat next to me if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, and I will come on to him in a second, but this wasn't the planned second episode of the Move Standard. I was going to go through some more underpinning principles of how we work and how the business is structured and how we work from a systems-based approach within our rehab. But we had some news in the last week, didn't we?
Indeed.
Josh Dixon at Josh Dixon Physio, if you want to follow him on Instagram, um, was training very, very diligently and very hard for the London Marathon. Invested in a coach, took it very seriously, posted lots of content about the approach.
Yeah, indeed.
And what was the news? Well, you tell the story. Tell the story of what's happened the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I think probably the first thing is differentiating between pain and pain. And I think as a runner, you always, when you're running quite high volume compared to maybe what you usually do when you're just taking over, I started with, you're always carrying a niggle. You're always carrying something like Achilles, calf, what have you, just managing those periods correctly. But this felt very different. So long story short, I had my birthday weekend, which stood in a long run. Obviously,
Let's give some
yeah.
context.
So I had a 32K long run, which 28K of that was at marathon pace at 4:08, which is to run a sub 2:55. Which again, if I give more context, I ran that for 24, ran that for 28 before as part of training run. So nothing that was brand new to me. This block, I would say, it's new to me. Generally, I've not run at that intensity for that long period of time. But yeah, I've sort of run into my birthday weekend, made a sensible decision not to run that weekend. My girlfriend Marnie then sort of stayed an extra day back up north, which meant I pushed the run from Sunday to Tuesday morning. And the Tuesday morning I ran at 6 o'clock in the morning, which I never see that time in the morning. Absolutely never done it. Never thought I would do, but push came to shove. I ran, felt okay. The next day, my body was in pieces, just in terms of fatigue, but actually recovered quite well. Made the sensible decision. I had another run in that week, which is again more marathon pace. I've left the intensification phase back a few weeks ago. It was very much a marathon pace phase, and the last 3 weeks. So it's all very similar sort of style running and very well the same run pretty much week on week. So I missed that Thursday run, which was a shorter run at tempo pace. Marathon pace, sorry. And then I basically, instead of running on the Sunday, which is a planned run, I then moved it to the Saturday because I went back home to Doncaster. They run an amazing group there, which is like a marathon run club. So I ran with that. So it's like a really, really good setup. And I felt amazing. So I completed the run with a mate of mine and 3 or 4 others in my group, ran at the pace and beyond that by only a couple of seconds for a couple of the kilometers. So really nailed the run, felt unbelievable after. Like, felt so fit. I turned to Alex, who I was with, and was like, "Mate, if I can just hold that for another 8K and sort of 6 to 8K, then I'll be absolutely nailed on." So it's 30K at 4:08. It was 3 by 10K with 90 to 120-second rest in between. So not much rest, but again, felt great. It was just that time to really onboard gels and make sure you can get your nutrition in you. And then, yeah, that weekend I had a fairly busy family weekend, but nothing sort of strenuous from a physical activity perspective. And then I woke up on Monday morning, stepped out of bed and was like, oh, like my right side I've got an injury history on, the left side never had even a niggle, like nothing. And as soon as I stepped on it, I was like, well, that's not right. Like, struggle to wait there. So yeah,
Trying to start to
yeah,
give as much information
important.
as possible because I think this will really connect with the people that have had bone stress injuries and stuff like that. Well, I've given it away. What were the symptoms that you felt, and how were you feeling at that point?
That's quite a good point, really, because actually my understanding of pain from a clinician perspective as well. I think because I then experienced it of like, people describing deep pain to you, I could sort of reason with it a little bit more. But I stepped up and I had no pain in bed. As soon as I look up my weight through my left leg, I got a very sharp pain. I was describing it as on the day, if I put a pin at the top of my hip, at the side of my hip and join them in between, that's the point at where I could feel it. So it was very, very deep and very, very sharp. And that stayed like that for a couple of days. But as soon as I sat down like this, like zero out of 10 pain. I couldn't feel an absolute thing. As soon as I wait there, don't like that. I tried to hop. Absolute no. Absolutely no. And that's like your acid test as a runner. Like, and well, most injuries, if somebody walks into clinic and you try and get them to single leg tempo pop or single leg hop and they sort of crumble, you sort of
Red
know
flags.
it's a flag to go, yeah, you shouldn't be running. You try and kid yourself. You're like, oh, it should be all right in a couple of days, should be all right in a couple of days.
Is that and that's where your head was, or was there other?
No,
There's no emotion or feeling at that point.
at that point, it was like, it'll be fine. Like, I think it's not coming to the realization of actually what it was. Didn't want to accept it, I think. And I think for 2 or 3 days until the Wednesday, what it felt exactly the same, I was like, oh, it'll be all right in a couple of days. It'll be all right in a couple of days. And it probably came to the end of the week, like Thursday, Friday, where I was assessing my hip and everything at rest, and there's literally nothing, like my motor output testing, like a range of movement, like anything labral was like, I'm like, there's nothing wrong here. And then your mind starts to panic. So I'm like, oh, 2 weeks away here.
Because I think
Very, very close.
that's the context I think is really important. Obviously, how long had you trained up to bed?
Oh, so yeah. So if I come back again, sorry, a skewed timeline, but I got a ballot place for London this time. So I've known for a year. So like in the back of my head, I'm like, right, I'll accumulate quite a bit of volume before Christmas. So I was doing like 50, 60K a week for 6 weeks, all very easy pace, pretty much no intensity unless I wanted to go fancy doing sort of like an interval run. And then sort of from when I went to Australia at the start of the year, that's when the intensity started upping a little bit, dropped my volume.
January.
From January onwards, like that's when my training look started. Like invested in the coach. I've had a coach before, but this is the first time purely for running. Sort of from a learning perspective, but then also I wanted to make sure that I was leaving no stone unturned.
I've never seen you as diligent. I don't know exactly
no.
percentage wise of how many sessions you ticked off, but it'll be over 85, 90%.
100%. Like I definitely hit above 85% of my sessions, and if I was to miss them, it was making a sensible decision behind social plans, because I'm a big believer that I don't want it to take over my life. Like I want like a busy life outside of, like travel to see a girlfriend and travel home to see friends. And like if I'm gonna do something, I'd rather be present, especially when you're running like 2 or 3 hours on a Sunday, wherever it may be. So like I'll shift things to my schedule, and I might miss a run. If in the grand scheme of things everything's getting tight Monday till Friday, I might just miss a run so I get that extra day's rest. I think that obviously proves pivotal in the long run, has always served me quite well. So yeah, I've been very diligent, I would say.
Yeah. So we got to 2 weeks out.
Yeah. It was
Head started to change a little bit.
I think everyone felt it as well. Like I was sort of moaning to everyone about it, and you don't want to talk about it, then you're sort of trying to lean on people to go, what do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, could it
What do
be,
you think? Could it be this? Could it be that? And you're trying to downplay it a little bit. You wanting them to tell you an answer of, oh, it could be this. So in the back of my head, as a physio, as soon as you wake up, as soon as you hop in and a deep hip pain, you sort of know that it's a bony pain, and you're thinking, oh, is it stress fracture? Is it stress response? I didn't really want to admit those things. I think the closer we got to that 2 weeks out, after a week of not running, I was like, this is probably what it is. And I was asking Jack yourself, I was like, what could it be? Have a look, etc. I'm getting people to do hands-on treatment. Like, is it muscular? And I'm just clutching at straws at that point. And again, I get the panic. Like, this is a season for runners where you're going to have injuries, and the closer you get, again, that feeling in the last 2 weeks where you tapered, or 3 weeks where you tapered and you feel everything, it's that amplified again if you're injured, because you're sort of wanting people to go, oh, you'll be all right, or actually do this and you'll be okay. And physio to go, I'll do these exercises and they'll be all right. But at that point, that sort of 2 weeks out, a week post injury, I sort of knew that don't matter how many cable hip abductions I do, how much strength work I do in the gym, that's not getting any better. And it all came down to the weight bearing. Every time I took a step, it wasn't getting any better. I was really limping for the first week, and then time does get
our
better.
landlord, 73-year-old landlord who is very involved in our business, and he comes and trains in rehabs with us and things like that. And he actually rang me. He said, "Oh, I've got some staff wellbeing concerns for you." And there's a moment of panic, and I'm thinking, right, what's happened? And they say, oh, Josh is fucking moving terribly. And he's a very well-to-do guy.
Very well-to-do,
yeah. So yeah, it was a little bit of a red flag for me. And I imagine, and I hope there are people listening to this who may have had bone stress injuries, but also just any injury in general. I think some people can often sort of beat themselves up or question the negative emotions around injury. And I think with all of your training, with all of your experience, with everything that you know and have done and rehabbed all of these people, it's interesting that you've still gone through the exact same experience. I think one of the things that we obviously do as a company, as Move, is try and understand the individual really well. And it just goes to show, like, I think we're doing a pretty good job, but it almost is just like solidified that you've gone through that, and now you will really be able to understand how other people are feeling when they're sat on the other side of that. And we've all had injuries, but obviously this is an immediate one, and it's really meaningful.
Well, I think I think I said a few weeks before when I looked after, like, you attach so much emotion to a goal, to something you've worked hard for, and it's very
Time, effort, money, financial, everything, emotional.
Yeah, and like your plans change, and you've changed plans because of it, maybe here and there, and it's that attachment you make. And I found that really, really tough that it had been taken out of my hands at that point. And if somebody sits across from me and they're laying this off, I'm always trying to. I always say, let's change what you can change. It's always my thing to everybody is like, let's take out every external variable out of the equation at this moment in time. The only things that you control are these next day, 2 days, 7 days, etc. Obviously, when you've got a time scale, that becomes even harder to deal with emotionally. But that's what I felt like. I was trying to take the emotion out of it and control things, but there was nothing I could control at that point because it wasn't something which was muscular. And I sort of had to admit defeat at some point. And because it is a red flag, if you come through, it's a red flag. If that presents to you, you're like, it's
especially with that type of injury, isn't it? Like, if it's like a soft tissue injury or a joint-based injury, you're like, right, can I muscle through this? Can I grab my balls and man through it? And the female version of whatever that is, but it's like, it's like, can I just get through this? Because, and like you noted earlier, like, nobody's ever going to be pain free. And again, that's something we really try and educate our clients on.
It's massive.
But like, the risks involved with you pushing through this type of pain and injury, and we'll talk about some of the specifics around the injury shortly, but it'd have been dangerous.
100%. And like when I put it on Instagram last night, like the amount of messages I've had over the last week is like phenomenal. And some of them are people who have messaged me about had similar things, and they've pushed through and got worse.
I saw a couple of them.
Do you know what I mean? And like they've pushed through.
They became our clients for a long time.
Yeah, and they've been on our books for a long period of time. It becomes, these are usually deciding moments of, right, this can be a really shit 2 months, or like a 2 months which I'm not going to be able to perform at the level I want to, or is it going to become another year where I'm going to have to deal with something which is going to get progressively worse? And I think that I always come back to, and I've said to him on the phone the other day, I always come back to mine and Elliot's chats. Like when me and Alex's brother, when Elliot worked here, we used to see people like absolutely flogging themselves. And we just say, like, it's not that deep. It's just not that deep.
No, it's not.
Do you know what I mean? I was running with that. I was running with that running coach at Doncaster. He's on his back next to me. He's like, this young lad who was with us, 2:45 marathon runner. And he's like, hey, do yourself proud. Mum and dad will be proud. Nobody else cares. Nobody else cares. Do you know what I mean? It is that deep. And I think you've got to take that away. And I think that's what I deal with it. It's like,
and the people that do care probably forget in 2 weeks' time.
100%.
You will hold on to the...
You've honestly occasion, you've honestly emotion. But
and the lessons that you learn, sticking to a plan and going through like that.
The process is harder.
The hardship to get the outcome, whatever the outcome is.
100%. The process is harder, like anything, like training-wise, that process is, again, we've been through a few marathons, like the process is a lot harder than the race day itself.
Yeah.
Just because of the length of time it takes. And it's that really what's the hard bit. But again, it's not that deep. And I think that's what I've kept telling myself, that it is one race, it is a one-off. It's only been 12 weeks of your life. And I think that's what's helped me deal with it, is that I like running, I like training, but it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah.
But I can happily, like now I've dealt with it, it's took me a couple of weeks. I think I'm quite acceptance of that. I'd rather be healthy in 6 weeks' time. I'd rather be able to go on holiday and not be limping around or like be on crutches. Because that's my big thing, is like
about worse, have surgery to
like,
it's life changing.
Yeah, and they're the things when you are injured, you just like, when you catastrophize with emotion, you're thinking all those things. You're thinking surgery. I'll be very, very honest. I put my head on a pillow every single night. I was that Wednesday. I'd put my head on a pillow, and I can sleep stood up. I can sleep anywhere. I mean, I wasn't sleeping the first 2 hours. Like, I'd sit there and I'd be tossing and turning and thinking, like, what if, what's shown differently? Like, what are going to be the consequences? Like, people have booked trains to come down. I've got like 10, 11 people there supporting me. All these things run through your head, and like, it is pointless. Like, not pointless, but they're the emotions you go through, and you will I've dealt with over time. But as we'll come on to, when I had the MRI, that was sort of the point where it was like, it's like a weight had gone off my shoulders again. It's like
the decision was taken out of your own hands. Yeah.
All these things, I could be doing X, Y, and Z rehab wise, but at the end of the day,
I just need to rest. And,
time.
yeah, it is one of those. And again, we'll come on to what the rehab's going to look like and things like that. But I think it's if you're going to be sensible about it, it's taken out of your hands, isn't it? Yeah. And even just before we started recording here, you went, I feel like I could run, and I'm like, looking at it.
I know.
Well, what's up? But you come back to
yeah. My sister messaged me yesterday.
It just goes to show, I think, like, even with the amount of experience that we have and the amount of people who would just go, stop being stupid, that thought is just a really natural thought. And you can see why people make a mistake.
100%. Like, again, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I'd have been like, and genuinely inject it and I'll run. Inject it. I would have been like, inject it, run. My mum and dad are like, can I wish you sort of injection? I was like, honestly, if something's injectable, inject it. But like, at back of my head, it's like, yeah, inject the bone. But it's like, as soon as you start to think like, what is this and what's happening, you start to think a little bit more logically. But it's all these, like, we are people, we are normal humans at the end of the day, and we're not full-time athletes, and we've got so much to manage alongside of it, and so many more risks, and so much more that an injury can affect. You've got to make smart decisions. Yeah, I think, like I said to you half an hour ago, this is the first time I've been, like, on Monday morning I woke up 2 weeks post-injury, walked pain-free, trained yesterday, did a little bit of lowers rehab, started that process, I woke up pain-free. So I'm starting to think, like, my sister messaged me yesterday because I'm giving my sister my, she's going to run as me at the London Marathon, which is, again, a silver lining. Yeah, she was supposed to do back to Bristol last week, the marathon at Sunday. So her boyfriend ended up doing it. And she took my London spot. So again, nice.
Yeah.
So it's a nice.
Still going to go down, and
still going to go down, still going to support, etc. So there's a silver lining. But she's mentioning yesterday, like, all these forms I've got to fill out, like passport picture, and I'm just sat there like,
right, moving on. We're not getting dragged into this.
Delve into that too much deeper.
Diagnosis.
Yeah.
Do you want to run through the diagnosis, or?
Yeah, I'll run through. Yeah. So again, like, I think just from an experience perspective, I've got, I think, 2 stress fracture clients at the moment who are on pro recovery.
Yeah.
So they are more severe versions of what I've got. But yeah, we had an MRI last week, and it came through as a grade 2 stress response. And in layman's terms, you've got
and that's in your thigh bone, femur.
Yeah, in my femur. Yeah. So, like, we thought, like, very, your neck of femur is quite a susceptible spot. But mine's actually in the proximal third of my femur, which is a little bit lower than most get it. And I've done a bit of research why, and it can be anything like load management, mechanics, my height, my weight. But
yeah, just touch on that before we move on. What were the statistics? I didn't know this, and I was amazed. So
yeah, so if you ever, you can all fact check this as well. So if you run it through Claude, ChatGPT, or what have you, just have a look at the average marathon time. Somebody who's 93 kilograms, which is myself, and 6'4".
And you'd lost 6 kilos.
I've lost 6 kilos. I usually sit around 97, 98 kilograms, and I feel fit and healthy. And the average time is 4:15 to 4:30, and then the average weight and height. Now, the average weight of a runner who runs a sub 3, not 255, a sub 3, is 62 to 67 kilograms. So I have 30 kilograms on top of that. And I think that's really, like, over Instagram the last few years, I've always pushed, like, the normality. It's so normal to run marathons.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's amazing. Like, it's amazing to see people who haven't run, but, like, 90% of people have really low training ages.
It's
2 years.
And that again, it's probably a podcast in its own, isn't it? But
yeah,
it's like, have you earned the right, and is it appropriate for you to do it? Everyone does it for different reasons, and that's, you can never say you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
but like you said, it's the
100%.
risk.
There's a little bit of a risky journey. That's not saying not to do them, but like there's a little bit more risk associated. You know, I still see myself as somebody who's got a low training age from a running perspective. You know, I've not run for 20 years. I've
How
probably
long
run
you run
pretty
for?
well for, say, let's say 4 years.
Yeah,
Like I've run fairly
consistently.
consistently. I've gone through periods of like months where I've not ran and things due to reasons, but I've run fairly consistently. That's really low training age. People who aren't as susceptible to bone stress injuries, tendon injuries, muscle injuries, have ran for 25, 30 years. Go down to your local club. Everyone's 45, 50, 55 years old. Look at all the ultras at the moment. The Sydney Backyard Ultra is like 50 years
Yeah.
old. Like there's a lot of people who runs for long periods of time. So yeah, I think the mechanics do come into it, but yeah, we digress. But yeah, I think weight, height, mechanics probably do play a little bit of a factor. So yeah, it's a grade 2 stress response of my proximal third femur. Like I say, the symptoms I was having were very deep in the hip and then getting some radiating pain down the thigh now and again. Never at rest, always pain free at rest. In terms of the grading system, so again, in layman's terms, the way you want to describe it is you've got grade 1, which is mild, grade 2, which is moderate, grade 3, which is severe, and then grade 4, which does go into ABC or A and B. Have to correct me on that. Which is then stress fracture. So that's when there's a visible displacement within the bone. Grade 2 basically means you've got bone marrow edema and then periosteal edema. So on the edge of the bone and inside. Grade 1 is just periosteal, so it's just on the outside of the bone. But grade 3 is a more severe version of what I've got edema wise, with no displacement.
Significant periosteal outer bone involvement and bone marrow edema.
Yeah.
Which is the core of the bone for in layman's terms, isn't it?
So it's one of those like when I got the result, it was like deal with it. It's not stress fracture. Look at the positives. That had been me on crutches in Porto in 2 weeks, going up and down hills, which would have been fun.
Might need a big dead chuff for you.
So yeah, it's so deal with that, and then like I say, the main thing's resting and not walking. You want to do something. It's so hard.
Yeah.
I've been doing so much. Like you want to do something, so I get it. And I think that the thing what we do really, really well, I think, and what I've laid into myself early on is find a way, try and flip it of what can I be doing, what can I be doing right now, and there's always ways around it, which I found quite quickly.
And I think again, before we move into some of the rehab bits and how we'll structure it, where the opportunities are, what do you think? Obviously, the sleepless nights. Do you think there's one thing more than the others that caused it? Like, is there anything nutrition wise you done different, recovery wise?
Yeah, I think, like you say, the two things what like jump out to me and in sort of the last few weeks is that birthday weekend. I had a drink, like not crazy, like Percy didn't, but I think probably
Enough to question it.
enough to question it. Obviously, moved that run 40 hours that week, the 32K, and then I moved the run again the week after, forwards a day. So I've lost like 3 days of recovery. So that's a big thing. Like even though my mileage was lower, a lot lower on those weeks because of moving things around and missed runs.
Intensity was high. And,
Intensity was high.
Individual spike of it.
Yeah, and like timing of that run as well on that morning, my body wasn't used to it. I do think that I'm very much like an afternoon to evening runner. I always have been. I just think that maybe warm going to that run probably wasn't the. Not being warm was probably not going to be good mechanically. My weight is massive. Like I'm down at 90. I was weighing myself 3 weeks ago. I was 91 and a half. And you feel awful. You feel awful. Like you do. I feel like you feel flat. You just feel. I don't know. You just don't feel yourself. I don't feel comfortable. Like not even like aesthetically, but also like you don't feel like yourself able health wise, strength wise, and energy levels. And like I'm eating sufficient. I eat so much. Like transparency. Like I eat 3,000 calories a day. That's just normality. Probably 3.5 to 3.6 most days when I'm running, and that's hard to keep sometimes. But the other things are nutrition. I think nutrition is pretty good, and sleep's pretty good generally. I think the two things are moving the runs, and then maybe a lack of sleep, so I was drinking at the weekend before.
I think the thing that we don't know, because we haven't done it yet, is obviously one of our things is always asking why. And once we go through a bit of an assessment, once you're able to do jumps and things like that, is there something on that left side? that was underlying we didn't know? Or are there old injuries on the right hand side, which has predisposed the left side to carry more load? And I think it'd be, again, we'll probably create a YouTube video and run through it and analyze it. And I think it'd be an interesting thing to
Well, I think
do.
I think mechanically, like you look at my testing over the last 3 years, like I feel perform pretty well. Double leg, left leg have always been really, really good. My right side not so much. So got a right side like hip label problem. I've had Achilles tendinopathy on my right hand side. I've also had an insertional peroneal tendinopathy a couple of years ago when I was at London, which is sort of I think linked to my Achilles as well. So I've always like managed things on the right hand side, and then sort of probably 6 weeks ago I had a bit of a calf niggle. Lasted what, like 7 days. Still ran around it on my right side. I ran at the intensity at 408 for 20, 24K before this injury. But then the question, was there still something where I'm offloading a bit onto the left? Quite possibly. With injury history, I'm something a little bit more acute, even though I didn't feel it. Again, we can hypothesize why. But I think my guess would be, from a mechanical perspective, on top of the weight, is that my right side carries a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Is my left side and took a little bit too much weight at that intensity and just boiled over into breaking point.
And I think that's a really valuable lesson for someone who is injured listening to this. It's like, it is what's in your story that may have predisposed or be a root factor, a root cause within your problem today. And obviously, we work with a lot of complex cases and people who've failed previous approaches where your normal approach would be that I'm going to go see a physio and they're going to strengthen my left side, they're going to strengthen my left glute, they're going to say that that's weak. Whether that's involved any objective testing or not,
Yeah.
we'll never know. But we'll test both sides. We'll have really clear North Star of what a happy, healthy, high performing person performs like. And if you're not meeting that on the right side, we can hypothesize that that's why the left side has suffered what it has. The rehab process is about building both sides up to exceed where you were when you got hurt, but then hitting all of them criteria so we can bulletproof the process. I hate that word. That's why I pause. Make you as resilient as possible. And look you in the eyes, shake your hand and say, you've covered everything. Injuries have factors that are physical, but then they have luck to them. But we've covered everything we can control, and good luck to you. And come back and test again in 6 weeks. That accountability, come back again and test in 6 months.
Massively.
Which leads nicely on to what's the plan rehab-wise? So we're what?
Yeah, it's a 2 weeks. Yeah, it's a two weeks post injury. 2 weeks post injury. So let's say symptoms started 2 weeks ago, Sunday, yesterday, so Monday yesterday. Quite fitting. Like the first 4 weeks were going to be about protection.
Yeah.
And just making sure that from like a steps perspective, actually, I'm keeping them as low as possible. But then also making sure that the symptoms are coming down every day, every 2 days. And it just so fell that pretty much 2 weeks post injury. It was nice that I had like a very chilled weekend at the weekend. Like I woke up Monday and being very pain free. So I thought that was the time when I had a full day walking to go, right, let's start to load this left side up. So what I'm going to try and stay away from for the next 2 weeks on the left hand side is like any axial loading really. And I basically just going to make sure that from a perspective that I gradually increase with the use of occlusion on the left hand side. So my right hand side, I've started training at sort of 100% yesterday. If I could rewind a couple of weeks and get my head out the good circle, I would have started a little bit sooner on the right hand side.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks is not the end of the world. So left hand side, like yesterday, did calf raise, in sitting. I did leg extension, leg curl, did split squat iso, did some co-contraction work. All with the weighted aspects of it. We're all using occlusion just so I could keep the intensity high, but actually keep the loads fairly low mechanically.
Just again for the person who's injured, what's occlusion?
Yeah, so very on you've got so think of ways of building muscle. Obviously, you can obviously build by increasing weight, slowing tempo down, increasing tempo, and you've got these variables you can change in terms of how to change the intensity. Basically, look for a restriction when you want to reduce the mechanical load, so reduce the weight going through that limb. You basically put a blood pressure cuff, very similar to, and you cut off part of the blood supply to the leg. You create a hypoxic environment. So when you do the task you're doing, such as a bodyweight squat, it becomes a lot harder and the lactic acid builds up. And it just means that you can get high intensity workouts with reduced load. Like we use it with clients, probably most commonly in ACL, well, and in sort of knee post-op. We'll use it very quickly because we can start to drive intensity early phase of the rehab to drive some change and stop that decondition element, and then obviously some arthrodynamic muscle inhibition bits as well.
No, definitely. And I think just to build on it, obviously it doesn't stop the blood flow, which some people are scared of. It just slows it
Sounds
down.
scary than what it is.
It does. And essentially, obviously, the pump that you feel and the lactic burn that you feel when you do some exercise, it intensifies that, doesn't it? And that is the metabolites, the things that are breaking down the muscle and forcing it to adapt, pooling in there and having a more intense impact at a lower intensity, like you said. And it's usually around, what, 20 to 30% of your load, your normal max load, that you can work at and elicit the same results. And there's some really good research as well that obviously it can feel hard.
Yeah.
And that sensory aspect of that has a really beneficial effect on pain as well.
Yeah.
And so people can actually exercise a lot more freely off the back of it. The other thing, well, before we move on, actually, how regularly are you doing that?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's risks attached. We probably do need to put out if you are going to use it. It's not recommended by us. Work with someone who can guide you through that. But yeah, what's the typical protocol? How many times a week would you use it?
Yeah, so for low level exercise, I think for myself, I'm going to use it twice a week with loaded exercises. If you're something more sort of like post-op, or I think like if you're going for like a stress fracture, where you maybe want a little bit more regularity because you can't even get on like a leg extension machine, etc. yet. So you're doing like straight leg raises, arranged quads, you can use it every day, and you can use it every single day. Just that loaded exercise is recommended 2-3 times a week. I'll be using it twice. I'll just be using it. It's going to be symptom driven pretty much, because this next 2 weeks where I'm going to increase my load in, I'm going to use it for 2 weeks. I'm going to gradually increase my weight, but again, we'll cap that at sort of 30 to 40% of what I'm doing on the right hand side. And then I'll come away from it after this 2 weeks and start to gradually load through that left hand side without the occlusion cuff. I do think, like, even yesterday when I was using it, like, I had no pain. I got no pain this morning. I probably could have done a bit more, but I think it's important with rehab, like, especially this type of injury. It's very symptom led. Like, everybody's a little bit different. Start slow and then build up. See how you react the next day. Just like with most rehab, see how you react the next day. Right, can alter your plan for 3 days time, as you see fit, and have symptoms of maybe led how you maybe do the next session. So I'll be doing that twice a week. I'll doing lower body sort of twice a week. Big thing for me is conditioning. I'm quite excited, to be honest. Like, I've not done any erg work since November, probably properly. So I think, like we say to everybody, whether you're 2 weeks post-op, 2 weeks post-injury, 1 week post-injury, what can we be doing? So, for me, it's getting on the bike, ski and row.
The other physical qualities you can continue to do.
Aerobic, anaerobic ability, feeling fitter, like, it feels a better day today.
I'm going to jump in because the key word you said then was feeling fitter.
Yeah.
Obviously, objectively, like when we work with a client, week one's our full testing week, and we'll test their aerobic fitness and get a baseline and program to see objective improvements in that. But I think for someone that's injured and you've had a significant change in your life, identity has been challenged and things like that feeling fitter is a really key thing.
Like, your head's in the gutter. Your head's in the gutter. Like, your head's in the gutter, and like, some of us want to work out and mentally not in the right place when things feel tough. It's a little bit of a release. Like, you still need that release. Like, mine has been, up until the point it becomes very arduous, is running, and it has been running for a long time. Supplemented with a lot of erg work, but like, I've missed probably those high intensity workouts on ergs.
I'm doing this in
a team, and you guys, like, with everybody at the team, like, it's so much easier. So I've enjoyed that element, and I do think when your head's in the gutter and you're feeling not too great about things, just feel like you've worked hard. Do you know what I mean? As long as for me, it's not about doing a random serotonin release. Honestly, I've left, like, I did Saturday, Sunday, Monday, like 2 easy bikes, 1 hard session. It's like, you feel better after it. You feel a bit more motivated. Like you're not thinking about you running as much. Like you feel like I've got something to do here. I can still gain and like an aerobic element from this rehab. So yeah, it's making sure that you've got things to do, and you're feeling better about yourself in a bit of a shit period.
Again, from a lesson perspective and a learning point for someone who is injured, I think having the goals outside of the injury goals and the two that complement each other are so important, because it doesn't just make you feel like you're just stuck doing the monotonous, boring rehab, because it can be boring, but
It's so boring, mate.
actually you go, I'm getting fitter, so I'm going to come back better.
Yeah.
And like, even if it's a placebo, if you believe you're getting fitter and stronger, and it won't be a placebo because you objectively see your numbers improving, like the way that pain works, again, another podcast in itself, the hormonal changes, everything. Yeah, your pain, exactly. Your pain is a cascading effect of your pain reducing. You're feeling more confident. You're more willing to do more things, push the adaptation, and it is a fine balance. And that's why I said, like, with our pro recovery plan, which you touched on earlier, we take care of absolutely everything. Yeah, people, and we do all the physio, the rehab, the training. But I think that's why I believe we get the results we get, because we do everything, and there are the objective side of it in terms of making people fitter, stronger, or mobile, whatever that physicality is. But like the subjective, the psychological side of it, of feeling like you're progressing.
I went in yesterday, Tommy and Mike were training, and I'm started doing my rehab, did a completely different session, like my first rehab session, and Mike came and went, shit in it. Yeah, shit in it.
That's a man that'll know that.
Do you know what I mean? He was like, and it's like you feel so alone, don't you, doing it? Like everyone's like progressing with the session, and you're still on your warm up. And I give him a load of shit for like how long his warm up is, but like it takes time to do it properly. And again, coming back to like,
do you know what? It's context that of like
suits, mate.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's basically like
now it's said, it's so obvious, and I probably did think about, but like I never acknowledged it.
Yeah, you don't dig. She's like, one was like, he's getting banter about it. He was like, it's lonely, innit? I was like, yeah, it's pretty shit. It's so true. But then, yeah, just coming back to like the physio side of things, and like you say, rehab is boring to start with. Like you've got to do the boring stuff to progress, and that's why like KPIs and markers are important, because those boring elements, like I said earlier, I've got my muscle coordination, co-contraction bits to be doing. I've got my ISO stuff doing. So like I did a lot of bodyweight ISO bits yesterday, sort of around hip and pelvis. Again, just drive some intensity.
They've all got an objective,
KPI
piece of data and KPI that attached to them, so it's not just meaningless.
Yeah,
and I think that's again the big problem with that traditional rehab approaches, and the way that most people rehab people is that people do it without a direction. When it's like, why am I doing this? I feel lonely. It is shit. It's boring. It's not what I want to do. Doesn't give me fulfillment. Doesn't fuel my identity. Why am I doing it? Versus do this, hit this, progress.
Yeah, I've said to people like, this first bit is going to be boring. If you hit this number, right, then you won't be doing it as regularly, but there'll be more intensity. Then if there's more intensity, it can then come into your gym program. It's just seeing that progression. And I think if people can visualize that process over day 1 to day 2 to day 7 to day 14 to day 21 and beyond, like if you can visualize that, that's why I sat and true to my Snipe program. It's like I can visualize what the next 2 weeks look like, and visualize that week on week. But it's there for a reason. But like you touched upon, it's making sure there's objective reasons behind that. And once you've passed it, right, cycle it off. What's the next thing? What's my next challenge?
How can I maintain that? But how can I continue to progress the other physical qualities that have become a more important factor? So you touched on opportunities around conditioning, cardiovascular training, and things like that. Where else are you focusing?
Yeah, so that's the next 2 weeks. Is that I'm very much my upper body's going to say exactly the same. Like I've just been doing 2 upper body sessions a week.
Focus on strength and muscular development.
Very much muscular development. Like I've lost muscle, my aesthetics. Like to be very honest, coming in summer. But you do lose that with your running. Like it's very, very hard to maintain. So I think definitely upper body muscular development, sort of hypertrophy work. Want to get my bench back up 100%. So it feels like I've lost a lot of that over the last 6 months. Conditioning. Yeah, exactly. Keep the main thing the main thing, and that's why I take my erg workout. Coming back to that is like I take my erg workout because I had a discussion with G this morning. There's a fine balance, because if you're training for a 10K and you're a regular athlete, you know, you do some mixed modal stuff, you do group classes, you want to do a fast 10K, you can keep it in there. But when you jump over to that half marathon distance, there's a massive question of, is that impacting my running the next day? Usually won't if you're doing like a 10K or something, like you can do mixed modal, do your short.
It's
20, 30
individual though, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very individual.
For
Very
G,
mixture.
reference, she's a good runner, and
Yeah.
it's like a 43-minute 10K. It's like, well, yeah, it probably won't have too much of a cost to it.
100%.
But when you are running further and faster,
It is like further, faster. It's like you take that bit out. So get that back in, going to work on those bits. I mean, like we'll do hopefully a couple of like competitions coming up, just gives me something to focus on. And then, so that's next 2 weeks. Then 2 weeks after that, I'll try and get rid of the occlusion cuff, start to do some axial loading. So,
I'm pleased you came back to it. What's axial loading?
so
Again, layman's term for
anything. So just think about when you're putting weight directly through the hip. So anything in standing,
leg press,
leg press, squat,
lunge,
etc.
step up type.
I'll attack these in like isometrically, and then see how my symptoms are as a bit of a precursor. So say if like splits wide, so single leg wall sit, I can hold those things for 60 seconds comfortably, without the pain. So physically I'm going to get there. Obviously that's tap on the back.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I get there, it's more pain driven. So as long as I can get through those things next couple of weeks, start some axial loading. So squats, I'll do single leg squat. I'll do sort of split squat variation. I love a low box step up. So that's one of my main ones, but that'll be one of the heaviest parts of axial loading. If you're doing like a heavy low box step up, they're the KPIs I'll work again. Strict that to RPE sort of 5 to 6 and build up over that 4 to 8 week period. Within that, so probably from 6 weeks onwards, I'll start to introduce.
Can I just jump in on with the axial loading? So obviously that loading will force an adaptation and a positive adaptation from a muscular perspective. Why is it important for the bone?
Do you mean in terms of?
So that the obviously what can facilitate the bone to remodel, and it is load, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's a twofold thing. It's not just about growing new muscle tissue, building stronger muscles through.
Yeah, so it's not just soft tissue elements. Like you've got to think of, you probably see on Instagram a lot. It's like when people have stress fractures, it's like what is bone loading, and people jump to plyometrics of like the impact side of things. But that starts in the gym,
walking,
gym, everything. So like that's why like you've got to think of actually loading like from a step perspective, trying to reduce my steps at the moment and have been, because I'm trying to reduce that bone loading on a day-to-day basis. And then what I'm doing now is, you know, there's not as much bone, there's not as much axial load and bone loading through like your isolated exercise or leg extension, leg curl. So the idea will be when I get into standing and squat, single leg squat, etc., like you are bone loading at that point. It's not just a plyometric. So
the plyometrics is a big factor, and one that's often missed.
Massive.
But it's it doesn't start there.
No, 100%. I think like that's probably what you've got to think. A lot of people think, just going back to like the walking side of things, is like people see that as an objective marker, walking more. Is it like it's a massive grey area, because people
Depends on the individual.
Yeah. So like for me, it is quite a good objective marker with the stress response. So it's something I've taken out very deliberately, and I'll increase week on week to make sure that I'm not over loading the bone, and I'm not getting a response off the back of that. Obviously, when I'm also changing my gym program in terms of like my loading strategy and standing, and I'm doing more steps, you've then got to manage those two things together. So there's a massive element of the individualized nature of it, and making sure that it's symptom led for me, my physical qualities. So yeah, I think really from a timescale point of view, going back, it's the protective side is hopefully the majority of it's done in terms of completely trying to do as many little steps as possible. I'm still not going on purposeful walks, but my day to day is, I can sort of start to treat day to day life a little bit more normally. Next 2 weeks in the gym, 2 weeks after that, sort of like 4 to 6, I'll take the occlusion cup away, start to increase my axial loading. I'll do some low level contacts like ankling, etc., just to start that process. And then 6 week onwards, hopefully again push more intensity in the gym, and then work on some force absorption and some plyo stuff as well.
Yeah, what we'd be doing to tick off the box and earn the right.
Yeah, so yeah, so it
takeaways.
comes back. It's quite important actually, because like it's one of those things where um you sort of you think, oh, I'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
But I think, like I say, it's an opportunity to do it properly. So like we say to clients that from a return to run perspective, like we from even from day one, everything's geared up to return to run. So that's going to allow you to do whatever you want from a day-to-day point of view and also sporting point of view. So I want to do 10 perfect single leg sit stands, 20 hamstring bridges and 20 calf raises, all with a metronome of 50 beats per minute, up on the click, down on the click, and then 1,000 foot contacts, and then within 30% limb symmetry, which I don't think will be a problem in my case.
No,
But they're the things which,
and it's even just the philosophy and having a system in place, and this isn't work with us where the only the answer to all of your problems. It's whoever you choose to work with and whoever you trust and whoever you like, you need to find someone who's going to grade your exposure and make sure you earn the right to go through the different steps. And I think that is like ultimately, if you're not being measured, people are just guessing with your progression and they're guessing with your health, aren't they?
well, that's the thing. I think I've just talked about there, like from a bone point of view, because there's a protective element.
Mhm.
You sort of there's a time scale element to it. You've got to be wary of like weeks.
Yeah.
But then the overriding factor is always going to be those KPIs. You know, if I can't do 10 single leg sit stand on one side, doesn't matter about the time scale, I'm not going to progress. So, like I say, it's my opportunity to make sure I do this right and make sure those things on the right side, which have troubled me maybe for a long time, are clear from the bottom up. Because I've now got an opportunity to. So that'll be the overarching goal.
Definitely. So aim from 6 weeks on, some force absorption, force production, your plyo progressions. What would return to run look like? You don't need a full thing,
In
but
terms of the grading,
yeah, like
yeah,
what is your plan as well? Like,
yeah.
do you want like what running do you want to go back to? Events, things like that. Have you thought that far ahead?
Yeah, so I've got Iron River Marathon at the end of the year, which is I've bought the ticket, but I'm not up to 100% bought into it yet.
Give it 6 weeks.
Yeah, but back running fully. I just want to get over it. I just want to sort of, I'm going to look at a North Star running wise. Just want to get up to 30k a week, like 30k a week, so I can do a run which I can go enjoy, do a tempo, I can do an interval run. Like for me, I enjoy that split without any pressure. So again, if I reverse engineer that, I've got to return to run. So that return to run, I will grade it. So once I've hit that 1,000 foot contacts, it'll be a 30 on, 30 off, and usually grade that by 8 to 15, depending on symptoms. So it might go 8, 12, 15, or it might go 8, 15. Like just depends on sort of like how my legs reacting and how my body's feeling. I'll basically just do 30, 30, then a minute on, 30 off.
So like twice a week in the first couple
Twice
of
a
weeks, then
yeah.
3 times a week,
Yeah.
and just build progressively.
So like, I think that's those first 4 weeks of return to run will be twice a week. And probably a little bit longer actually, just to make sure I know there's no rush. Like again, I've got no focus over the summer to be back for, so I'll keep it to 2 week. And then when I'm into like probably 2 30-minute constant runs, I start to play around a bit with it with frequency and intensity.
Nice. Anything else we need to cover?
Don't think so.
I think it'd be cool to wrap it up.
Yeah.
What's one key lesson that you've learned from this experience?
Um,
It can be personally, it can be professionally.
yeah.
What lesson can you
I
take
think
from it?
I think the main thing is I've learned about my things I probably yeah. So the main thing is that what I've learned about myself and my body. So that being like if I look back on previous, I've never been injured for a marathon block. I've got a question about why it's happened this time. Um, the individualized nature of it. So like I've had quite a lot of intensity through this block compared to anything I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I think I need a balance of I think probably need a little bit more volume and a little bit of the slower stuff, and then also a little bit less intensity. I think that's probably for me as somebody who's 90 kilograms is probably going to be a sweet spot, and I think that's because I've tried different. I've had somebody to go before. I've had twice. I've proven it myself. After running for a half marathon, And had this coach for this block. And I do think I'd sit in that in between. I listened to a podcast, two podcasts. One of them which screamed about all zone one, zone two. The next person, this person's like a top level triathlete, Alice Brownlee, and then the other guy's a 209 marathoner, and all he talks about is VO2 marathon threshold.
Yeah.
So it's like they're two people at top of the sports, and there's two ways of attacking it. And I think that the individualized nature of making sure that I understand my body better from this process, even though it's been a little bit of a negative outcome. It's not pure down to the program at all. But I think that I need to keep things as individualized as possible to my body and my weight. I think that's my biggest probably training takeaway.
I think, yeah, and I think there's a lesson in thinking back to the name of the podcast, a new standard that you can establish for yourself going forwards. And I think, again, from my experience of training heavy runners, doesn't all of your training doesn't have to be running.
Yeah.
Like in my opinion, it's better for you that you do some of your VO2 max work on feet and get the adaptations there, but then maybe some of your longer, slower stuff is on the bike.
Yeah. Like I say, I think when I was on this podcast a few months ago, it's like having Jake did, and he's like, you can't have lungs, don't it?
Exactly.
So hop on a bike and yeah, like again, those bits, those processes, like it's hard running to get your head around, but like again,
That's where the opportunity is.
100%.
It's not just coming back fitter, stronger than you were before. It's actually learning more about yourself and being more well informed the next goal that you have. So
I think there's massive positive line to like, I feel like I understand my body better, probably how I'll be better for the next process, and just emphasize that individualized nature of training. Because everyone is so different, training ages, training history, day-to-day life, stresses, etc. So I think I understand myself better from a running point of view. I think personally, um, it's probably shown me. Again, it goes back down to what me and Elle said. Like, it's probably not something new, but it it isn't that deep. It just isn't. Like I, I sit here now and I've had a week and a half medical, so I can deal with it now. I can move on. In 2 weeks' time, everyone who wished me like well wishes last week and today and yesterday.
it's gone already, hasn't it?
Forgotten about in 24 hours. So like these things come and go. And I think that, yeah, I think one of the biggest learnings is that these are the small moments in your life, managing them well so you don't have long-term issues, and come out the other side of it with probably a new freshness, new goals, and yeah, and not put too much pressure on themselves to be able to perform.
Nice.
That's it, really.
No, thank you very much for coming on. All good. I will close out saying thank you very much. Obviously, this is the second podcast, so it's not going to be the smoothest outro in the world, but wherever you're watching, please subscribe, please share, please comment. It massively helps us. Please leave us a review. I believe that's one of the things on Spotify. And if you are listening to this, one of the promises I have made to myself is that I am not going to get any sponsors and we're not going to make any money from it. This is a vehicle to provide as much value as possible. But if you are someone that's listening to this who is injured and you want some help, you can reach out to me on Instagram at Alex Merrill Physio and just send me the word rehab, and I will send you everything that you need to know about working with us. Alternatively, if you are a physio, osteo, chiro, rehab therapy based business owner and you want some help and support on a one-to-one basis to build your business and build the dream business that you're looking to build, again, drop me a message on Instagram with the word mentor and I will send you all the details. But until next time, thank you very much.